down the hammer and pick up the pencil. You're about to listen to the Savvy Radio Show. Learn from real-life real estate investors, experience revealed with the Savvy Landlord as your host.
Hey, welcome to the Savvy Radio Show, man. I know everyone's my friend. I say that all the time, but seriously, this guy is my friend. We hang out as often as possible, but we can't because this dude is an airline pilot / trainer for the government, United Airlines, flying around the world, has his own plane, but there's more to that. I met Andy Gribb several years ago speaking at a very small RIA in Enid, Oklahoma. Now, guys, I want to let you know I'm a little urban. And so when they asked me to speak there, I was like, okay, what do you want me to talk about? And it's a bunch of landlords that hate life and are crotchety. And I was like, oh, man. And then there was one young guy that actually approached me. And I remember he was just overly educated and gregarious about real estate. And I was like, who is this dude? So I actually saved his number in my phone, Andy Enid Investor, because I just thought you were just, why in the world would you be an Enid excited and motivated? So I can't even remember what I spoke about. It was like technology. And that's the first time I ever met Andy. And then like, I don't know, a couple months later, you randomly called me and you're like, hey, something about coaching. And I was like, I don't know about that, but I'll just come and meet you. And you were going to buy this house and someone was selling you a bill of goods. And I was like, look at this foundation, look at this stuff. And you were so nice and just overly just supportive. And I was like, man, this is just what investors do, is just try to help each other. And that's how that relationship was formed. And then you were such a hustler. Okay. So I borrowed money from you first.
Somewhere around the same time, yeah.
No, but like, how did you get the Buffalo, New York hustle in there? You're like, okay, only if you help me in Buffalo, New York. So that's the contingency. This has happened to me a couple times in my lifetime. Let me tell you the people that I hang out with. One time I bought a house from. I sold the house to Brian Nix, and he's like, okay, I'll take it and all your books. Like the guy's so cheap. It's like, and I remember I gave him, and you were the same way, and for an hour of coaching, or I'm like, okay, well, anyway, the cool thing is this guy doesn't even need coaching. He should be a coach, but he's just like me. Like I hire coaches myself to want to become better. And the reason why Andy's on the show, let me tell you a couple quick things about him. Number one, that he's in 4 markets. So that's just to manage that alone. I used to own some property outside of Oklahoma City, and it was not easy and borderline nerve-wracking. But he's got 23 units around the country in the most odd, weird, bizarre locations. One, Oklahoma City, obviously. New Mexico, Maryland, and New York, which is Buffalo, New York. And that's where Andy and I really secured our relationship. He's like, hey, man, I'm buying 20-something units up there. And I was like, okay, but I want you to help me with the due diligence. And I'm like, man, and Niagara Falls is there. And I was like, dude, this is great. This guy's going to pay for me to go to New York. And and it turned into a job. I don't think we ever vacationed at all. By the time we made it to Niagara Falls, it was like dark. But
ready for a nap.
You did take care of me. You did feed me well. And it was extremely interesting to me to see how people live in the other part of the country, to see that you can buy a 3-story Victorian home for pennies on the dollar. You couldn't even build for what you were buying them for. And it was just a great experience in my life. I'll never forget that time. And it was a wonderful experience. Thank you for inviting me.
That was awesome.
And anyway, it was just gnarly that this dude. Now let me just tell you my perspective. So that's how I know him. Now this guy, he's just not pretentious at all. You look at him, he's just like a great dad. He loves his children. He sacrifices. And if you saw him, I saw Andy on the street, you'd be like, oh, okay, he's just a guy. Like you go to school and there's just a bunch of dads. Like he's in the crowd. But then he calls, hey, I'm buying these 18. He's got this switch. I'm buying these 20-something houses. I'm doing it with a no money down deal. I've already raised the money. And by the way, would you loan me some money too? With no money down. And so he took the reason why I even took this project on, because of his tenacity in the way that he was like, I'm going to do this. I don't really know exactly what I'm doing. I do know what I'm doing, but I don't know. I've never done this. And I'm just like, most people would just crap their pants that they're going to another market that they don't know. They don't know have a property management. They don't even live there. They kind of know the area. And this guy took down all those houses with no money. So let's just go right into that. Okay, well, let's pause there. So how'd you get into the real estate game? I mean, you have a successful career as an airline. Is it pilot? Is that the right term?
I'm a pilot. Yep.
Okay. And you're an instructor for the United States government, and you're flying people around in what jet?
So I'm flying a 737 now for United is the civilian job I do. But I mean, I always wanted to be a pilot since I was a kid, and that's kind of where I got my start, and then segued into real estate later. And when I came back from pilot training, so I lived in Maryland. I grew up in Maryland and met my wife in Maryland. We bought our first rental house, and I bought my first house to live in while I was on a trip. I was literally in Florida, and we sent the contract in, bought my first house, not even there. Set that all up. I was deployed when we bought our first rental. April and I were dating for a while, and decided, hey, I knew I was going to marry her at some point. So I just said, hey, she was looking to buy in houses, and I said, why don't you just tell you what? How about we buy it together? We'll make it a rental, and we'll go from there. One? That was the first rental. So
two separate names. You weren't even married.
Yeah, weren't even married yet.
So you already have like a plan going.
So I had no idea what we were doing there. Just thought, hey, it's good to have a rental. We bought it at the peak of the market. Didn't know anything about buying houses. I mean, when I look back on the property records, we paid double what she had paid 2 years earlier. And then the market tanked. We held on to it as a rental. It's been cash flowing ever since. We still own that first one we bought together.
So you bumped into real estate. What made you decide to buy it? Like, was it a book that you read?
No, it wasn't even just. I knew other guys were successful at it. Knew other pilots that were successful at it. I literally was deployed to the desert when I did it, and she was looking around wanting to buy something. I
know that's a thorn in your flesh because many times you've mentioned like I overpaid, and it frustrated you. But you still came out okay. But there's got to be a driving force behind, like, you just, people just jump on a plane and go to a remote location for fun. They go to Hawaii, right? I mean, it's like, are we talking that it was just like that for you? Hey, I'm just going to buy a rental property because I think it's a good idea?
Well, we knew it was a good idea, and you don't actually get moving until you do it. So, you get that analysis paralysis everybody talks about. April was motivated to buy something, and I thought this would be a good opportunity because I knew I wanted to spend my life with her. So at that point, I said,
you kind of locked her in.
So we did, and say, okay, well, worst case, this will be a business deal, and we'll be partners for a while.
Such a hustler.
We got engaged a couple months later, so it wasn't that big a deal.
Hold on. So this gal, this April, amazing woman. So we have to get her on. I mean, her and Shanae should get on this deal.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, did you have to sell her the idea that you're going to rental property, or she was already kind of savvy about?
She's pretty smart.
Oh no, she's super smart. Yeah. Let's not talk about that.
But from the money side, she worked at a bank, and she knew it was a good investment. She wanted to get in the game. She didn't want to be a renter anymore. She wanted to buy and start building equity in her mind. So she was ready to buy.
So she understands the concept of equity and real estate.
Yeah.
Now you guys are just so on it. Where did you get all this information? Are your parents in real estate at all?
Nah, nothing.
Both sides?
Nope. They're scared of it. Totally scared of real estate. Totally scared of investing.
Well, I'm scared that you're in 4 markets. I'm like, when you called me in the Buffalo deal, I was like, I'm honored that he thinks I'm somebody special. But I'm like, dude, how to orchestrate and then seeing that war zone in my mind.
Oh yeah, a little bit, but
I mean the repairs. Okay, so you convince this beautiful woman to not marry you yet, but just in your mind, it's like leaving your cell phone and her at her house to come back later to pick it up. Basically what you did, like, I'm going to lock this chick up with a rental. Yeah. So you guys signed a document with 2 separate names and purchased a property.
So she brought the awesome credit. Women always seem to have better credit. Go figure, whatever.
Dude, you were such a hustler.
So
this is terrible.
she locked up the mortgage. I put down the 20%.
Okay.
And we literally had the deal that, hey,
partnership.
And literally, I mean, we signed a document. I was 60% owner. She was 40% owner just because I put in the 20%. And then obviously that went away. It's gone now. I mean, we're 50-50 now, but just because we weren't married yet. So.
Okay, hold on. How long were y'all dating before this transaction?
Right around 4.5, 5 years. So we got married just after the 5 year mark.
Let's just dial in a little bit tighter. How did you meet her?
Oh man, I would say she's my cousin's former roommate's sister's friend. She's
when you said cousin, I was about to say Arkansas.
No, the college roommate friend met through my cousin, just a group of girls that hung out together, and ended up being at a bar in Baltimore of all places. And I saw my cousin, and I saw this beautiful girl that was with her, and it turned out to be April. And she didn't give me the time of day because I was moving to Texas for the Air Force for a year to get trained. And she's like, "All right, have a nice day. See you later." And I came back a year later. and ran into her at a birthday party, and she's like, "Hi, I'm April." I said, "I remember your name." I totally thought about her the whole year. Like, I want to get in touch with this girl. So yeah, she was definitely a good fit.
Dude,
she is awesome and is a great mom too. But she's really savvy as well, and she keeps me grounded about when I get some crazy ideas like you do. You know how it is.
Oh man, I can't. I need to interview her. What's it like to be living? Because like my friends are airline pilots, and just to get to this level where you're at, the sacrifices are out of control, like almost inhumane. The moving you have to do, the classes that you have to take, the cost of getting licensing, and I know you were in the military, but it's a little bit different. But still, is just unbearable. So what's her little background? She wasn't working at a bank.
Yeah, she was a bank branch manager, and I think she was 24 when she became that. So I mean, she was doing pretty well. And literally when we first got married, I've got a job as a charter pilot, flying King Airs and Citations. I was 26, she was 24 early on when we were dating, and just it was crazy that she would be going to the bank, and I'd be like, "Hey, I'll see you later," and I'm sitting there playing PlayStation, and then I'd get called to go take a trip. I'd take a trip, and I'd come back, and I'd be cutting the grass, drinking a beer, and she'd show up and be like, "What did you do all day?" Getting paid to fly airplanes, so it was great. Man. So we had a pretty dynamic relationship.
Yeah, I mean,
for sure.
it's just random that you guys are so in sync, in the essence of business, because the men that I talk to, my wife's not on board, or they don't understand, they want to spend money. So you guys did you ever outline what this looked like? I mean, you guys randomly bought this rental property that was in your neighborhood that you were living, so it's just kind of forced landlording.
Yeah.
Then when did you guys ever have a meeting and sit down? And then does April work now, and what does she do now?
So she's had several jobs. She left the bank, worked for the government for a while as a financial analyst, which is a whole nother ball of wax, but I could never do what she did. But basically, she wrote contracting for buying financial stuff for the government. They want to buy some super secret widget. She would help them fix it to make sure the contract said what they were going to build. It was crazy stuff that's way smarter than
details.
You want more
No, she detailed.
She was very detail oriented.
Her gift in this earth is like she's analytical about details. Okay.
So she was really good with that. And then when we moved, I took a government job up in Buffalo, so I was flying for the government, flying helicopters and law enforcement. We relocated to there, and of all things, the bank that she worked for was based in Buffalo. And she said, "Hey, if I'm going to move up in this bank, I got to move to Buffalo." And I said, "Yeah, that'll never happen." And then I take a flying job that takes us to Buffalo a couple years later. And she just said she was going to go back to the bank and be an accountant, and they didn't. She had a master's now in accounting, and I think she was overqualified for any of the jobs she wanted to do. They knew she wanted to be a stay-at-home mom, and ultimately that's what ended up happening. So she's a mom and became a real estate agent, and she's basically managed our finances with the portfolio. So she keeps me grounded with that ever since we started buying. So
you moved to New York. Did she get a job at the bank?
She didn't. No. So
she's just kind of just hanging out.
Yeah, well, she managed our stuff, and
you didn't have the properties then,
right? Correct. We just had we had the two, because when we moved away, we kept the two in Maryland.
Okay,
and so we just had two. Had that for a couple of years. This has been about 15, 16 years now. So early on, we moved to Buffalo for a couple of years, and then my job took me to Oklahoma, and I moved my I also, the whole time I was flying for the Air Force, I was also flying for the government. So had two jobs. In addition to that, we had real estate.
And now you have 3 jobs.
So now I have 3 jobs, essentially.
So today you are a United Airlines pilot.
Yeah, quit the government job, and I still fly for the Air Force part-time as a reservist, and I also fly for the airline at United.
And you're a real estate investor hustler on the side.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. Also in your pedigree, you know how to finance things with no money down.
Correct.
You know how to loan money and borrow private money. Also, you are very gifted in that area. And you also have this other little toe into Airbnb as well. That's something else that we'll probably have to bring back later.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you relocated to Oklahoma City, and that's where we connected somewhere. Right. Okay, we met at this. So your personality type is like you always want to be learning, or what made you? I mean, this Enid real estate club meeting is in the YMCA. I'm like, it's in some like, I'm like. And I mean, the people that show up there, I mean, they're real landlords.
Yeah, they're salt of the earth kind of landlords.
Yeah, like they hate everyone and everything sucks. So what made you just? I mean, you're flying up there in Enid, going back and forth. Were you living there in Enid as well?
No, so we lived in Edmond the whole time. So my government job was at Will Rogers. I was commuting up there as a reservist up to Vance. So Vance Air Force Base is one of the instructor pilot training bases for new lieutenants, 21, 22-year-old lieutenants. I'm one of the instructors that teaches them initially how to fly.
Okay.
So we'd basically take them from pedestrians to pilots. It's kind of the way I look at our job. I mean, literally, they come in with very little experience, but they're highly educated and very motivated. So it's a fun job, and you teach them how to do aerobatics, teach them how to land, you teach them how to do formation a couple feet away from each other. It gets pretty exciting. So it's a fun job, and it's rewarding. It can be a grind at times, but what I found out was there was a real estate meeting in Enid, which is only a couple minutes from the base. And I was on my way home. I was already going to be late for dinner, and I thought, well, I'm going to swing by this meeting. And it was literally the first time I'd come to this meeting. It's all these old guys that literally have houses they probably managed for 20 years, and they're in the grind with their tenant issues, and that's what they go to meet about, is basically that. They didn't want to learn anything new. They don't want to do anything different. And there's you teaching this class, and I could look around.
That was your first meeting?
That was my first meeting.
Oh.
And you're presenting and talking about all this cool new stuff, the stuff that I'm interested in doing, and all these people clearly are not in the right bucket. This is definitely not for them. But it was motivational for me to come up and say, "Hey, man, where are you from?"
Yeah,
this
you're
is
the only
random.
guy. Yeah,
Very random.
Well, I did. I was actually one of my very first time speaking at that time.
No kidding.
I think this was my third or fourth time. I mean, the book it was awkward for me. I was honored the dude asked me to come. I was like, sure. He didn't pay me. I just drove up there. And I just talked about what I was passionate about back then. Still today, actually, is technology and how to make your business better. But so that's cool. That was your first meeting. That was my first meeting, and that's how we met. It's interesting how life just happens like that. And then years later, I mean, you were one of my very first private lenders, and which was awesome. And it was an interesting conversation. You taught me a lot about borrowing money, and here we are. So. Why'd you get into Airbnb? Well, yeah, why'd you get into Airbnb?
Well, Airbnb is a fun segue. The Airbnb was just me saying to April, hey, at some point I want to buy an airplane, have my own airplane. And I really would love to have a ski condo.
Oh, we got to talk about the airplane. Okay, keep going. How you got, I thought that was the most...
So, I mean, that was after the whole Buffalo transaction and buying those 18 properties. But the Airbnb stuff was just, hey, I want to have a ski condo because I want to go somewhere and ski, and I want to have a plane that can fly me there. And basically, my philosophy has been I like to own stuff where I can travel to, and that gives me the opportunity to write off the trip when I go there for a business reason. And then, oh, by the way, I'll spend a little time skiing, and then I'll go home. Yeah. So, and every time I go to my condo, I've always got something to do. There's always, whether I'm swapping a toilet or changing a thermostat, doing something that's obviously improving the property. So then I find out that now the problem is it rents out more than I get to use it, which is good. It's a good thing, but at the same time, it's every time I want to go, hey, I've got time.
Buy another one.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So
I know I'm going to rent yours. It's on our list. I mean, it's a true ski in, ski out place, right?
It's a short walk across the parking lot. Put your skis on, and if it's been snowing, you just ski down the hill. It's great.
Yeah, I heard it. It's pretty. So anyway, yeah, I was just thinking how much you've influenced my life, like the automatic keys.
Oh, yeah.
You're the one that turned me on to the Wi-Fi.
Yeah, the Airbnb, another thing with that is property managers up there, they charge 40%. And they're like, hey, we're partnering with you. No, are you partnering with me on the mortgage cost? Because if you're not, then we're not really partners.
Well, Florida's 30.
Yeah, I mean, they got a lot. Obviously, there's a lot of work to do in the management world, which I get, but it's not 40% worth in my opinion. So my goal was automation. So with the Airbnb, I can automate the bookings through Airbnb or VRBO. Airbnb has been our bread and butter with that. And then the automation would be setting up a Wink network, setting up everything Wi-Fi, and obviously other things like security systems you can do. But what we did was I automated the lock. I automated the thermostat, so where I can change the temperature. I have an automatic water shut off to where if there's a leak, it has a sensor under the hot water tank, and it's going to turn off the main to the unit. So all that stuff. So when someone checks in, we have a pretty good process set up. But essentially, I'll put the door code in right before they're ready to check in. So it's real easy for them, and then I change it as soon as they're done.
Dude, you amaze me. This is a really good question that came on my mind. I mean, you're all over the place. Like, you have your hand all over how do you not get bummed out? Like, because I know that
definitely do.
Because I know my Airbnb, like I sold them all. Like I still have a couple left, but I think I got 2 units left. Because I mean, it's a lot of work, and complaints. It's not all glamorous. I mean, it sounds like this podcast. We've only been going 20 minutes, and you sound like a rock star, and you are. But how do you deal with overwhelming pressure of things don't go well? How do you what keeps you going in this fight? I mean, you obviously got a good support system. I mean, if April is your rock, like how do you handle frustration or keeping this great. I mean, I've never seen you have a sad day. How do you? Now, we're not going to talk politics because I did see you go off on me on politics at 2 a.m. I can't remember. I remember that. I was like, we're never talking about politics again.
We can solve all the world's problems. We just wouldn't remember it. That's all.
I was like, whoa, he turned into a dragon. But I mean, that's the only time I've ever seen you. You've always been even keel. You've always been super positive, and you're love life, and you want to learn as much as possible. But I know you have some down days, and I know that this game is not easy. How do you sustain that? How do you what keeps you driving?
That really is the hang up right there, because you are taking on a different career. If you're going to do into real estate, I didn't realize it early enough on, but I've kind of figured it out that real estate is not. It's just a tool. It's just another way to make money. It's not a life choice or anything. It's just another job that you particularly pick. So, and I've heard other guys say, "Hey, my life purpose is real estate." No, it's not. It's just something to give you the ability to go do something else.
That's right.
And right now, I love to fly airplanes. I'm blessed that I get to fly to do something that I enjoy showing up to do. So that is definitely something that not everybody can say that they do. But I did work really hard to get to where I am, and it cost me a lot of money to get all my flight ratings and get to where I am. That being said, I don't want to quit that job. So right now we're at that crossroads where we're getting to the point where real estate takes a lot of time, and to manage it all well takes a ton of time. So really, April and I are fighting that battle right now, is how to automate some of that stuff, how to hand it off to bookkeepers, because she's really savvy on accounting and things, but how do you hand it off to get that part done by somebody else, so we simplify our life and not have to do as much. So that is the bummer right now, is that because you've experienced this before, when your portfolio gets to a certain size, you're going to hand it off and pay other people to do a lot of it to make give you that freedom that you're looking for.
Right.
So that section of growth is where we're stuck at right now, handing it off to where I don't have to focus on as much. So that's what's bumming us right now, and we definitely have a lot of conversations about that. Once we get over that hurdle, man, the sky's going to be the limit, because that's what we want back.
I don't know. Another really good friend of mine, Greg Meach, he loves to fly. I mean, and he sacrificed everything to get where he's at today. His family, I mean, and we talk about this all the time. He's like, he's on his third apartment, and his income supersedes by his apartments, but he still wants to fly. And I was like, who said that you have to stop doing what you love to do? And I think the answer to your question, if I could chime in, is like, man, just minimize as much as you can in every other area, and do as much as you can in what you love to do. If it doesn't take away from what your end goal is, I want my children to say that I was always there, right? So, I mean, I take a pay cut. I mean, I'm a grinder. I could work 16-hour days, but I just take a pay cut because I want to.
Right.
I don't think there's wrong. I think that a lot of people have built this up that you should be a full-time real estate investor, or you should quit your job. Like you're free now. You're the unemployable club. I think those are all good things. I think those are for average people that are used to working as a slave, or working as a 9 to 5, or have to feel like they have 30 degrees so they can make $30 an hour. All that's fleeting. That it's the eternal reason why you're doing it. If you love to fly, it's okay to have a job. And I don't know why we are in a society that you're a better person because I don't have a job. But but women are looked down upon because they're stay-home moms.
Yeah, you hear that a lot.
Absolutely. That's not true. Like, my wife's got 3 degrees. She's gangster. She's amazing. And I'm like, I just wish she wasn't a stay-home mom, because I'm like, girl, like, we could do a lot more. We can set this world on fire, because you have so many gifts and talents that I can't even touch. But I don't know. I just think this is a conversation that I'm having with him all the time. And he's like, on this date, I think, why would you ever stop doing what you love to do? And I just think if you love to fly, just fly. And I I mean, you might need to do it part-time. You might need to maybe doing it full-time all the time. I don't know. It just depends on, I think it all depends on what you want and what's best for you and your family. Forget that this is I think that we're lied to that we got 100 single family homes. Okay, now I'm going to be in commercial. And then after commercial, now I'm going to be in apartments. I followed this plan. Whose plan is that? That's not the plan for me.
And who's to say that, I mean, for the average person, you get 20 houses free and clear, and they're paying you a couple $100 a month. So you're making $60,000 a year free and clear. What's wrong with that? Now if you got the ability to have time to go to your kids' school and volunteer during the day, I mean, that definitely is significant.
I think it's pride and ego. I think that, hey, I got 100 units and I'm better than you. I don't know. I think you're on the right track, man. I think you've done it extremely well, and it's exciting to see. Let's talk about this airplane. I bring up this story all the time, and I don't want to tell the story because I think it's phenomenal what you did, and it's definitely worth talking about it. But tell us a story on your processes, how you applied real estate, your gifts and talents, and also here's another thing about Andy he's very creative. Especially being very inline and detailed and running planes, you have to kind of follow a system. But this guy knows how to think outside the box. And what you're about to hear has been something that blew my mind. And I have said this story several times in several private meetings. If you can do this is amazing. So tell our listeners how you acquired a plane.
Well, I was going to back up for just a slight second for that. So moving from Buffalo to here, I didn't really know much about all the little ins and outs of real estate other than just owning a rental or two. I didn't like the job that I moved to when we moved here. It was not what I expected it to be, and I was pretty miserable. And we attended a guru seminar and thought, hey, this would be a lot of fun. And April was on board, and a lot of the little topics of things we do now, those seeds were planted. But I admit, we wasted money on that seminar. But I mean, we ultimately got our money back based on the knowledge that we explored those topics and what we were going to do. But one example of moving here was I didn't know how to lease purchase option a house. But when we moved here, I still had a house in Buffalo, New York, that it takes several months to close up there. They're just ridiculously slow. We did a lease purchase option where I found a house that we liked here in Edmond, and I just said, hey, man, how about I rent it from you for 6 months? I'll give you a $3,000 non-refundable deposit. And when I sell my house in Buffalo, if we like it, we'll still buy it. And so, not knowing what I did, hey, I did a lease purchase option, and I'd never heard of it before. It was a random idea.
Wow.
This was before the guru seminar. So that's the kind of out of the box things.
I think I got to say, speak something else over you.
Yeah,
that's really good. I think that you're open. You're open to new things. You're open to trying something new. I think that we're closed-minded. This is, you go with my children are in school. Are you kids homeschooled? Or are they?
No, they're in private school.
Okay, so everyone has to follow this system. So there's no out of the box thinking. I think what's wonderful about you, Andy, is that you freaking think outside the box. Like, hey, I want this, but they want to sell it. There's got to be a compromise. That's outside the box thinking.
And it worked. It worked out for that seller. I mean, he had already moved out of state. He's trying to sell it as a FSBO, for sale by owner, and it was crazy. So it worked out for both of us.
Did you buy it?
So yeah, we bought it. That's our house now. So
the one I've been to?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
the really nice house.
Yeah, so that's how we did it. And then
it's like brand new.
Yeah, he had it for it had. Yeah, he
It was
had
like
a couple years, yeah, and he was.
I thought you built that deal.
No, I wish, but we would have fixed a couple things. But anyway, so
the backyard looks good.
Thanks, man.
You did all that jazz.
Yeah. So we're moving from New York. We sold our house from here in New York because I didn't want to pay somebody 6%. It was really, and we only owned it 2 years, and we needed to break even on it. So I listed it on a $300 kind of thing Brian Nix does. $300 listed,
Oh, yeah.
and you basically all they do is put it on the MLS. So what I did was we put it on the front side of Zillow. And if somebody called from a FSBO side, they'd call my phone. But if they called the MLS, it was April's phone number, so we knew it was an agent. So April would give them the lockbox code, and an agent would walk through, and we were willing to pay him 3%. And my neighbor, I said, hey, man, how would you like to help pick your neighbor up there? And I said, if I have someone to look at it, would you mind showing it to him? So he was a salesman. And I said, well, what can I pay you if you do it? He said, man, all I want is that toolbox you got is pretty awesome. That wheelie toolbox in my garage. I said, you got to be kidding me. So anyway, he found the no kidding guy from Zillow called me. He was divorcing, bought my house, and he was a real negotiator. But dude, I still made $10,000 more than I otherwise would have made.
Wow.
And I paid my neighbor $200 for a toolbox.
So like most people would just hire were you feeling like this was a challenge? Because this is where I'm trying to define Andy Gribb right now. I'm like Clay here. I'm trying to find out like what's up with this guy. Like what drove that?
Well, just
was it $10,000 or was it just trying to do something that you've never done before? Because that's how I roll.
A little bit of both. I mean, and April keeps me grounded because she has to put up with me. So she's more the saint.
I mean, you're all over the place.
Because you know how most people would not put up with doing that, whereas it wasn't hard. And April was very supportive of doing it, and it worked. So she's kind of gotten the mindset that, and she said somehow when you come up with a crazy idea like that, it works. So I just go with it. Well,
especially in the military, most deals that I see, military people just walk away from stuff. They just hire some random. They don't even know the agent. And they don't have time. They're flying to another place. They're moving. Yeah. The military is paying for their move. So they have some costs. They absorb some of the losses. Most military people just move on,
Yeah.
And you just stuck and stayed. All right, let's get back to the
So back to the airplane. So
catching
new ideas. you hear about everybody wholesaling, and that's the first thing when you go to a guru seminar is people learn about, oh, you can wholesale. And you and I both know that, okay, so you're supposed to know everything about the industry, but the only qualifier as a wholesaler is you got no money.
Yeah.
So it's
no skin in the game.
So hard to do. Well, I thought I was going to try and wholesale an airplane to myself. And what I did was I used the same kind of idea. I basically found a way to find FAA registrations and just talking to other pilots and
I mean, everyone that
I could
every
just
address and name of a plane.
Correct. So like going to the
owner.
DMV and saying, hey,
I want a list.
where does Steven live? And he has a Cadillac Escalade or whatever you drive. Your Ford F-150.
Easy.
I want to find an F-150, so I get a whole list of the
F-150s.
of F-150s.
So you pulled the list of an exact plane. What's this plane?
So the one I have is called a Super Viking. It's made by Blanca, company back in the 70s. But there's tons of little manufacturers just like Honda Civic.
Okay.
So basically, I found the list and I downloaded it into Excel. And then I basically mail merged it. April showed me this. I don't know Excel. Hey, how to switch it around and get all the owners in Oklahoma, Texas, New Mexico, everybody within a radius of a drive that I was willing to go. It's about 30 planes. And I then typed a letter and said, hey, my name's Andy. I'm in the Air Force. I'm looking at buying a plane like this. If you're interested in selling it, give me a call. And then I mail merged it. So literally I sat there, mail merged it, printed it off, and my 6-year-old at the time helped me stuff all the envelopes and send them out. And out of 30 letters, I got 28 responses.
Wow.
Because pilot, as you can tell, I like to talk just like you. I mean, we're good. And as pilots like to talk about themselves, well, but when the conversation's over, they're ready to talk about flying. So they would all call you and say, hey man, I'm not really interested in selling my plane, or at least not for the price you probably want, but that was a segue for me to say, great, man, tell me about it. Tell me about your plane. What do you like? What don't you like? Why'd you buy it? So I got a lot of information on that model and got tons of background. But out of those 30 letters, 5 of those callbacks were guys that needed to sell it. And one of those was a doctor in Amarillo. And he had no time. He worked 7 days a week. He'd already bought a second plane. And this one's sitting just collecting dust in a hangar for the last year. And it hadn't done his annual inspection. And so, all right, man, well, let me come out and meet with you. Came out and talked to him, looked at the plane real quick, and then I sent him a 3-option letter. I said hey, man, here's option 1. Here's all cash purchase, and I didn't have the money. Option 2, if you finance it for an interest rate, and because he wanted 40 grand or 50 grand, whatever he wanted. And I turned around, and option 3 would be, hey, principal only for 10 years or whatever, and you get the price you wanted. He said, well, I'll take option 1, which was all cash. I was like, oh, damn, I gotta go find some
Did
money.
You get private money for a plane?
I pulled that one off a 0% credit card offer.
Oh,
and then
we have a class coming on that.
And then 18 months later, I just paid it off. But
wow.
So I bought it from him and just pulled.
What was the discount? Like what? So 40,000 was
it's about a $50,000 plane. I bought it for 28. So
wow.
I had to put about 7 into it initially, get everything up, making it perfect the way it needed to be. So about 35 into it after I bought it.
So did you fly it from Amarillo?
Yeah, I did. So I flew from Amarillo by myself down to the inspection station that did all the work that specialized in this plane in Texas, and they took it for about 3-4 weeks and went through and fixed all the stuff I needed fixed.
So how did you get to Amarillo?
Oh, I just I guess I drove out there. April dropped me off that time. So.
Okay, so you got there, bought this plane.
Yeah.
Then you had to fly to someplace in Texas. Did you take a flight back?
April came down and met me. We spent the night and then drove back. So. Yeah, so it was. I mean, she was definitely supportive of it, and I sold this plane to her as, hey, your parents live in North Carolina at the beach. I can fly you there cheaper and faster if we all pile on this plane and go there, because it's a 200 mile per hour airplane, so it gets us there in 5.5 hours. So we'll stop once for gas, get lunch, get dinner, and then continue on to the parents. But for the way we got to go airline wise, it's like 8 hours to get there.
Oh, yeah.
So this was definitely easier. I'm obviously got to worry about weather and things like that, but she was very supportive of, yeah, okay, that sounds good. And there's an airport a mile from their parents' house, so literally they'll come over and pick us up when we land. And
well, did you fly down to Florida when we had our
absolutely
our mastermind?
Yeah, so it took another guy down who likes planes, wanted to ride along. So
yeah, I think he peed his pants.
Did
he? It was Keith, right?
Yeah, Keith. He didn't give me the backstory of what he thought of it, but he seemed pretty happy the whole time.
Well, I mean, how can you go wrong? An instructor was flying you around. All right, so we're gonna wrap this up, man.
Yeah.
We're definitely gonna have to have you back on the show. We're gonna dive deeper into the woes of property management outside of your network of investors. So, what advice would you give from some folks? Is there any books or classes or anything that you really has contributed to your success thus far? And then We'll go. I have another question after that.
Man, there's a ton of books, and everybody's got a good list. That I mean, you've covered tons of the ones that I listen to, and every once in a while, I hear someone mention it, just write it down, take a look at it, and see if that's worthwhile. But the biggest thing I find value in is just being consistent about showing up to things. Just like you do the landlord luncheon a little bit. I mean, I show up to that to participate. It's not necessarily, maybe I'll pick up a nugget here or there, but the fact is, but exactly, you're out there and you're going to meet with people that are like-minded that. Yeah, like they might learn something from me, and I know I'm going to give back in that way. But there's an occasional thing where I'll pick something else up, and you got to be willing to learn. So, but if you're not participating, you're not going to be. So
just basic, show up and do it.
Yeah, I mean that's the number one thing. But
I mean that's how we met.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a good
awesome. Point. All right, so then what does it look like for the Gribb family if you could write a magical poem or stanza or life? Is it more units, more time? What do you see from here?
Well, I'm gonna bust your chops a little. It's Grieb, but that's all good, man. Yeah, it's never bothered me. It's just busting your chops.
Grieb.
Yeah, it's the whole I before E except after C rule.
Yeah. So it's Grieb.
IEB. You got it. But I'm not an English major, so the only place I go is Germany, where they get it right every time. So it's. But for me, it's more time. I mean, I love the fact that. The airline job keeps me hustling when I'm gone. And when I come home, I got to squeeze in the Air Force Reserve stuff. But you know what? I get to volunteer at my kids' school now, and I show up and get to be there and go in their classroom and help with science and math and stuff. And,
cool.
And the kids are always asking me flying questions, and that's a lot of fun. So for me, it's more time with my kids because you're not going to get that back.
That's right.
And you are way smarter about that than me. And I've learned a lot from you for that reason, trying to be a good dad, because you're always, at what point do you stop your hustle to keep going bigger and better? It's not, you keep going for more units, you're just gonna have more units that you got to manage.
It's just more of a headache.
You got to take time with your family now, and then that's my goal, is trying to streamline and have more family time. And I think we'll grow just based on just the synergy of working with other people.
That's awesome, man. I love your heart. Can't wait to have you back on the show. Could people email you or contact you? Are you comfortable with, there's another airline pilot out there that can speak your weird language.
Oh, yeah, I do.
And I love your shirt. You should have brought it. I know you're a big, he's a Pittsburgh fan. So if you're out there, honey,
rough year.
Just a rough year. And you also have this awesome shirt. I think your wife brought it, but I love being in a bar with you with this shirt on. What does that shirt say?
Which one?
Pilot.
Oh, yeah. Pilots looking down on people since 1903.
It's a great conversation. So I know that there's a pilot out there that needs a new friend, because you guys could just reminisce about death in the air. But what's an email, phone number? What do you want to give out?
You guys can always email me at my business address. It's Agrieb. It's AGRIEB at SoonerCityProperties.com.
SoonerCityProperties.com. All right. Well, this has been a pleasure, man. I'm excited to see where you go from here. And how long have you been an investor?
About 15, 16 years now.
Oh, okay. So, yeah. For a long time. Dang, you're like a real deal investor. Anyway, thanks for coming in, Andy.
See you.
What is the Savvy Boot Camp? Are you struggling to get to the next level as a business owner, as an investor? Do you want to multiply your income? Sign up for the Savvy Boot Camp, a strategic and supercharged one-night and one-day event designed to shortcut your learning process and propel you forward. Just value, no upsells, and an intimate setting to build relationships with like-minded investors. We will be covering how personality profiling can make you a millionaire, outsourcing and the nitty-gritty of maximizing your property management, scaling your business through systems and automation, technology hacks you should be using every day, and how to raise private money. Go to www.savvybootcamp.com now to register or to find out more.
Thanks for listening to the Savvy Radio Show. Glide online and listen to our other motivating episodes at SavvyRadioShow.com. Connect on Twitter at LandlordBook and always be buying assets.